Alright, YouTube, welcome back. We are in week 9 of the NFL Prediction Series. And to start things off on Thursday, we got the Battle of the Bay with a couple of mediocre teams and probably the two frontrunners for the first overall pick, the Raiders and the 49ers. The Raiders looked pretty good last week on offense against the Colts, but they couldn't stop a nosebleed on defense. And the 49ers, well, they just haven't been able to find it since Jimmy Garoppolo went out. Although this game, I kind of like what Kyle Shanahan can do against the Raiders defense, and I like him over John Gruden for adjustments. So we're going to go with the 49ers 24, the Raiders 17 in an ugly affair. Next, we got the Chicago Bears taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills they've had to play Tom Brady and Andrew Luck in back-to-back weeks, and their defense has been okay. It's a top 10, top 6 defense, but offensively they're the worst in the league, arguably. They're the worst at throwing the ball, and they're towards the bottom in rushing. Josh Allen's out. Derek Anderson hasn't looked well. And the Bears, they've gone from first to last to first in their division in the course of 1 week. They're third in the league in rushing and top 10 in defense. Trubisky looks like one of the best running quarterbacks in the league, not named Cam Newton or Russell Wilson. I'm going to go with the Bears to win this comfortably 28-13. I don't think the Bills will be able to muster up much for offense. Next, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Carolina Panthers. Tampa Bay cannot figure out their quarterback situation. I even tweeted last Sunday it's about time they start looking for a new franchise quarterback. Fitzpatrick will be good 1 week, bad the next week. He's too inconsistent. The defense is atrocious. But Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson have been on point this year. O.J. Howard looks like who they drafted it to be, the tight end they want him to be. And I think Carolina's defense is still pretty good. It's not as good as it has been in previous years. And the Panthers, as they always do with Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey, they can run the heck out of the ball. They will pound it all day and all night. They don't really have much of a passing attack, but they have just enough to complement that. And Tampa Bay is not stopping them. Cam Newton's probably gonna have a great day. He's gonna be able to hit the ball up the seams all day. McCaffrey underneath is gonna make the first guy miss. Look for Carolina to win comfortably and extend to 6-2. We'll go with a score of 30-14. You know what? Let's make it 30-28. Fitzpatrick is playing, so maybe he'll muster up a few late touchdowns. Next, we got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns just fired Todd Haley and Hugh Jackson, and now they have to deal with the second hottest team in the league with arguably the hottest quarterback in the league and one of the best running backs who's come on strong these last couple of weeks. It doesn't look good for the Browns. They've been pretty good at running the ball, but I don't see any way they could be within 20 points of Kansas City this week, so I'm going to go Kansas City 40, Cleveland 14. Next, we got the Jets taking on the Dolphins. The Jets have been kind of fluky this year. They're up 1 week, they're down the next week, they're up next week, they're down really badly the next week. Sam's had his moments, but he's had a lot of those rookie moments, as you'd expect to, being drafted as such a talent-deprived team on offense. And Miami started off the year on fire, and they've come back down to earth the last few weeks. Brock Osweiler is definitely not who you want as your backup quarterback. Kenyon Drake's pretty nice. Devontae Parker's nice, but this is an awful game. I'm going to go with the Jets. I feel like Sam's going to have one of those weeks where he's just hitting his mark. So let's go with the Jets 21, the Dolphins 17. Next, we got the battle for the North as the Steelers take on the Ravens. I know the Bengals are technically leading it, but I don't think that's going to hold up throughout the rest of the season. The Steelers have the second best passing attack and the 4th overall offense, while the Ravens have the number 1 ranked defense and are surprisingly top 10 in passing. Joe Flacco's had a really, really good overall season. The problem that's hurting him is he's had a few games where he's just off, just absolutely awful. But those other games when he's on, he's looking pretty good. I really want to pick the Ravens here. I feel like the Steelers are playing with fire with the Le'Veon Bell and James Conner situation. But Antonio Brown's found his stride. He leads the NFL in receiving touchdowns now. I'm going to say the Steelers win this one by the skin of their teeth, but I don't, we'll say 31-28, but even I'm not too sure about that because the Ravens always play them tough, and their defense has been fantastic this year. But I think Pittsburgh still has just a little too much talent for the Ravens to overcome. Next, we got the Lions taking on the Vikings, and the Lions just kind of surprised everyone with how they gave away Golden Tate to the Eagles. I feel like that's the Lions kind of conceding we're not going to get there this year, so let's just prepare for the oncoming years. Where the Vikings they just lost to the Saints, but there's no shame in that. The Saints are one of the best teams in the league. In my opinion, they are the best team in the league besides the Rams. Kirk Cousins has looked really good this year, minus the fact that Minnesota hasn't won a whole lot. The defense is getting a little bit better. It's in the top 10 now after struggling early. I don't see how Detroit can win this one, but they've been playing down to their competition a lot this year. I'm still going to go with Minnesota 24-20. I think Stafford will make enough plays, but that defense will keep Kerryon Johnson from going off. If Kerryon gets a good 100 yards and can control the clock, then the Lions have a really good shot. Next, we got the Falcons taking on the Redskins, and the Falcons have had a surprisingly bad defense this year. Granted, the entire defense is on IR right now, but what's even more surprising is their inability to run the ball. Devontae Freeman's been dinged up, but even when he was there, they can't move the ball on the ground. Tevin Coleman's struggling finding anywhere to go. It's been all on Matt Ryan throwing the ball, which has been pretty effective. I mean, they're top 5 in the league. Their offense is top 10. But they still can't seem to get Julio the ball in the end zone. I don't understand it. They take him out off the field way too often. He's going to end up with more receiving yards in NFL history than anyone else to not have a receiving touchdown at this rate. And then the Redskins, it's ugly, but they're just really, really good. I mean, a top 5 defense, top 10 in rushing. Adrian Peterson is back. Who would have thought? Alex Smith has done what Alex Smith does. He's conservative, but he's efficient. He moves the ball. As long as he's not in a shootout, he can handle himself pretty well. They added Clinton Dix to go along with DJ Swearinger, who's been one of the best safeties in the league. It's hard for me to pick the Falcons because I think Washington's going to control the ball. They're going to keep it on the ground. Alex Smith is going to convert first downs. Both of these teams, I feel, underutilized their best weapons in Julio Jones and Jordan Reed. But I think the Redskins have their defense will make enough plays. They'll stop. I think once again, they'll keep Julio out of the end zone. They'll keep Calvin Ridley from going off. I think it's going to be a pretty tight-knit affair, 24-21. I'll say the Redskins win because Alex Smith they win the time of possession handily. Next, we have the Houston Texans taking on the Denver Broncos, and this is kind of a funny matchup considering Denver just traded Demaryius Thomas to the Texans just this last week. And Denver, they're not what they were before. They can run the ball pretty well, but Case Keenum's definitely not the answer. He's thrown a lot more picks this year than I thought he would. And the defense is taking a step back. They can still get after the passer with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, but the secondary just isn't what it once was. It's not the no-fly zone anymore. And Houston they've been on fire 5 in a row. Deshaun Watson has looked pretty good. He's looked a lot like the rookie we saw last year, who is a high-volume touchdown guy. DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best receiver in football this year. When you need him most in overtimes, fourth quarters, he's unstoppable. The defense has reasserted itself. It's looking like a top 10 unit again. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless can get after it, cover up some of the deficiencies in the secondary. And Kareem Jackson has looked really good this year too for a guy that's had an up-and-down career. I don't see how Denver wins this game. I see Houston winning this game comfortably 30-20. Denver doesn't have the firepower. I think Keenum will make a few mistakes, and Deshaun will capitalize on those. He'll get hit, and it'll be ugly early, but I think when it rains, it pours, and once they start scoring, they're gonna run it up a little bit. They're gonna pile it on. Next, we have the LA Chargers taking on the Seattle Seahawks, and Seattle's kind of had a reinvention these last few weeks. They're top 5 in running and top 5 in defense. They've basically given up on having the Russell Wilson as the drop back quarterback. I think they realize that they're not built for that, and that's not really his game. His best asset is coming off play action and extending for big plays, and then if it's not there, dumping it off. He's not really a precision passer. He's accurate, but he's not a guy that'll slice you up and down throwing it 40 times a game. And Chris Carson has looked outstanding. He's a big, strong running back. And the defense, it seems to be revitalized. Instead of being more of a secondary-based team, their front seven is nasty. Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Frank Clark, they get after it. So they seem to have retooled that defense real quickly. But the Chargers have been a very, very balanced team this year, without Joey Bosa, too, and Jason Verreppian on IR. Phillip Rivers is an underrated MVP candidate. He has, I think, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's looked outstanding. Melvin Gordon's been one of the more balanced running backs in the league. He's been a similar to Todd Gurley, just on a less dramatic level as far as yards, touchdowns, etc. And the defense, they get after it just enough to with how many points the Chargers are putting up. I'm going with the Chargers in this one. I know Seattle's done very, very well. I'm still going with the Chargers. Let's say 27-21. I think it's going to be a close one. I just think the Chargers have too much firepower. And when Seattle falls behind, I don't trust their ability to catch back up. Next, we got the game of the year so far, in my opinion, when the Rams take on the Saints in the Superdome. Nothing needs to be more to be said about the Rams. Top 10 defense, top 2 offense, number 1 in rushing, top 10 passing. Todd Gurley is the MVP frontrunner right now, in my opinion. He's been a freak of nature. The Saints, top 10 offense, pretty mediocre defense, honestly, but they get enough takeaways and they do a decent job of getting off the field on third down. I think they have a bad tendency of just getting beat for big plays. And then Alvin Kamara, Marvin Ingram, when they get ahead, they can put you away by running the ball, scoring, and they can put you away now, which is something they haven't always had in Drew Brees' career. I think Drew Brees is in that top 3-ish MVP running as well, behind Todd Gurley and probably a couple other guys like Patrick Mahomes, just depending on how you look at it. I think because the Saints are at home this week, and I think the Rams, they're a young team, and that pressure being undefeated could start to mount a little bit. We saw it somewhat against the Packers. They struggled early, but they overcame it late. I think the Saints, if you struggle early against them, they will put their foot down and put it away. I'm going to go with the Saints 37, the Rams 31 in a high-scoring affair. I think Drew Brees scores a touchdown late, like mid to late fourth quarter. They get the ball back with a lead, and they put it away with Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, and Drew Brees. I think they just control the ball when they get it back. And next, what most people thought would be the game of the week coming into the season, the Green Bay Packers taking on the New England Patriots. Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. Their advertising is the GOAT versus the battle for the GOAT competition, which I disagree with, but that's not important right now. Packers have had one of the best passing attacks, as you'd imagine. Terrible running the ball, nothing unusual there, but a surprisingly effective defense. They're ranked 12th right now, and that's after dealing with the Rams last week. Dealing with the Rams offense will drop your defensive rankings no matter how good you are. And the Patriots are incredibly balanced offense, 13th on both rushing and passing. Tom Brady's an efficient surgeon. Bill Belichick finds different ways to get different guys involved. One week, James White is the leading receiver. The next week, he's the leading rusher. The week after that, he's not even on the field. The defense bends a whole lot now. It doesn't break as often, but it's definitely not a Bill Belichick-style defense. This is tough because when I look at it, New England is much better. They're going to out-scheme the Packers, but the Packers have a lot of talent. I'm going to go with the Patriots after the Packers traded away Montgomery for basically no reason. And then Clint Dix for, once again, no reason. He was playing very, very well. And their defense was starting to come. I think they were starting to look pretty good. I think they're starting to complement Aaron a little bit better. And not to mention, I think Aaron is still a little compromised in the knee. Where Tom Brady's hit his stride, everybody's healthy for the Patriots, and Gronk's a little dinged up, but they can an 80% Gronk with a healthy Julian Edelman, James White, Hogan, and all those guys, they'll be fine. Josh Gordon's coming along. Let's look at New England to win this 34-28. I think Rodgers will pretty much just run out of time. It'll probably be a slow start, but I think he's going to come on strong in the second half, and I think they're just going to run out of time. New England's going to have an early lead and just maintain it long enough. And in the Monday night affair, we got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Tennessee they were 3-1 at one point, and they've looked awful since. Their offense is in the bottom 3. Their defense is pretty good, but I'm not looking too much into that. One of the worst as far as passing, and at middle of the pack as far as running. Cowboys are kind of similar. They're not any better in passing. They're one of the worst offensive teams. But Zeke's having an outstanding season. They're 4th in rushing. That's pretty much all on his shoulders with a little bit of Dak. And the defense has been outstanding, especially considering most of their games, they haven't really been able to score more than 21 points, if that. The defense has held its own very well this year. DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith looks revitalized. I'm thoroughly impressed with how quickly their defense has come along. I'm going to say the Cowboys win this one 24-14. They just have too many weapons. I think Amari Cooper is going to assert himself in the passing game. He's going to make Dak Prescott's job so much easier. He's gonna have like one read and run type of offense, kind of like he had when he was early. It's gonna be Cole Beasley in the slot, Amari Cooper stretching the field, being your number one guy. He has a plethora of weapons. The offensive line is still really good, even though it's not the elite offensive line it used to be. Zeke's gonna get his like he always does. It's gonna be ugly, but the Cowboys will win comfortably, 24-14. And that's all for this week's NFL predictions. Thanks for tuning in, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll have more videos, at least 1 to 2 a week coming up.